Hey, Peter. I can't hear you. Oh, the audio is connecting. I'm recording, just so you know.
So
And I got
I can
now
hear you now.
I can hear you now. I got Phyllis Diller behind me for oh good, you got a cat.
Yes.
All right, we're good. How are you?
Whose name is Phyllis Diller,
No
ironically.
shit. All right,
No.
well maybe that's a good
Her
no.
name is Janie, actually. It's a lie.
All right, you're
Starting
fussy.
off on the wrong foot, I'm sorry.
The wrong foot. There's no feet. That's the whole thing.
That's right, look at me. I'm just a bust.
Oh, I didn't shave.
I got my son gave me these gaming headphones, but I opted not to use them. So tell me if the sound is okay. I don't know.
It's okay.
All right.
It could always be better.
Yes, that's true about everything, I guess.
I know. My hearing's not so good. I'm getting old. Too much loud rock music.
Yeah, I got I don't know how you pronounce it, tinnitus or tinnitus or whatever.
Tinnitus.
Yeah, it's nice sometimes. It's like always having like an ambient soundtrack in the background.
Yeah. Didn't that guy shoot himself from Texas? Like some millionaire, like got tinnitus and the ringing drove him crazy and he eventually shot himself. You didn't hear that?
I remember that. And I can totally understand it because if I'm in like not a good space, it's like it can really push me over the edge.
Yeah.
But usually I'm not like that. Usually I'm fine. But I could see how it could, drive somebody crazy. But then, so could life. So
I know.
Constant onslaught.
What is it? What are those people post about Pirates of the Caribbean? It's not the problem isn't the problem. It's the way you're thinking about the problem. That's the problem. I didn't even see the movie, but it's some annoying thing like, I guess it's the whole Johnny Rotten, the problem is you. I didn't even realize it at the time, but he's kind of saying like, look, you're going to tell me your problems. You're the problem. All right.
Yeah, sometimes the problem is something else though. I think usually there are a lot of causes for any problem. So I'll take some of the blame, but I ain't going to shoulder the whole thing.
You aren't?
No, sorry. So how are you doing? I haven't seen you in, I don't know, decades.
Decades. I'm okay. It's boiling here.
Oh, yeah.
There's air conditioning in the living room, but not in my room. I'm good. I'm employed. I'm, happily married, or at least my wife's happy so far. But we've been getting along. The lockdown has made us stronger.
That's good.
Yeah.
Are you in Brooklyn? Is that where you're living, or
I'm in Queens?
Okay.
Jackson Heights.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's nice over there.
I think Kiss is from here, and the Ramones, and Chaplin had a place.
I remember Jesse Malin always said Queens was like the rock borough because of what you just said. I'm actually coming back to New York, coming back home very, very briefly in the next like 2 weeks or so to pick up my daughter. She's at a sleepaway camp at the Berkshires, and for whatever circumstances just ended up that she would have to fly home alone, and she didn't want to do that. So yeah, I'll be in for like 2 days, 3 days, something like that. But
okay. So I remember last seeing you in Great Jones Diner when I was and drinking. I remember being outside the Great Jones Diner. They threw me out, I think. I think I had quit cigarettes. And I said, I've quit cigarette. I announced to the bar, I quit cigarettes and I'm going to drink twice as much. And then apparently I'm a man of my word, and they got me thrown out. And then I was thinking I was Iggy Pop outside the window, and there was a broken beer bottle on the ground, and I cut my stomach with it. All in my mind.
I remember that.
Okay, so you've seen the best part of me.
Unless the last I remember you, and I feel bad about this, was when Lisa Carver was in town. Well, actually, you filmed a lot of that.
I filmed it, yeah.
And I felt really bad because she was like, you wanted to hang out with her, and she didn't want to hang out with you. And so her whole entourage, and this is why I feel bad because I was part of that entourage, were just like constantly moving away from you and treating you like a persona non grata or whatever. And to this day, I felt like a shitheel for that because it's just such a crappy thing to do. But that's the last time I remember. You, I don't know. You might have been drinking then. I don't. I was certainly drinking. So I don't remember.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah. I don't. I don't think I was drinking at during that time.
Okay.
And I probably just got that camera, and I was just trying to hang around cool people and be part of the cool kids. But
Yeah, you obviously got some footage. I don't remember because, like I said, I just remember Lisa being like not wanting to see you for whatever reason, and all of her yes men were like okay, and just kept on like staying a league away from you at all times. But obviously, you got close at some point because I saw that footage
it was a
with
zoom lens.
me and Mike and some other people.
Yeah, it might have also been from outside the makeup place. I might have been, but I think I was in a little bit.
No, you were in
There were.
there was a the makeup scene. I was outside and I guess you were too, but or maybe you went in. But
I did
there
go
was
in. Yeah.
there was some scene in a bar or a restaurant. I don't remember. I don't think it was the Great Jones, but it was some. It was too bright,
Yeah.
and like my ex-wife was there, and Mike
Yeah.
McPadden was there, and obviously you were there, and Lisa and her entourage or whatever.
Yeah. I guess she had a book signing at See Here, and she wrote
Yeah,
something like, uh, um, something about, I can't remember the quote, um, but it was an ambivalent quote, like I don't know,
is that the
just
was it a roller derby or was it the Dancing Queen book? I can't remember.
I think
I
it
think
was
that's like when I first
it was Dancing Queen.
was okay.
I could go and look for it and get the quote.
Somewhere too. But I mean, I've seen like Suck Dog, but I don't think that was the first time I really like hung out with Lisa, and we actually became pretty good friends. I still see
Yeah.
her when she comes into town with her, like she has a book or something. She does her own
Yeah.
little performances and stuff.
Yeah, I've never really been good with groups. I've
Yeah,
pretty much
I
been
understand.
in my own head, and I'm not really very cool. Like you go at, I can be goofy, and I can
Right.
suddenly blow my cool by being goofy because I just kind of think everything's kind of stupid, and I can't sustain that cool vibe. So I don't know what I'm doing in New York City because there's been
Well, New
many
York
times
City's
where
not really that cool anymore,
not
right? And
anymore.
believe me,
No.
it's in your favor, at least in my opinion, not to be cool. I thought I was cool, when I was younger and stuff, and in bands and things like that, and it was just such a waste of time. It's uh,
It's such a
it's not cool
burden.
to be cool.
Not
Yeah,
anymore. It's just like, because I've always felt, I don't know. I guess it was a way of, y- you know, um, keeping the people you don't want at bay or whatever. And
yeah, I
then I
see
guess
that.
just keeping your vision or something. Or I don't know. But I always thought, look, we're here in New York City, and we're all a bunch of kids, and we're all just doing cool stuff and playing, and to take
Right.
it very seriously is like, I'm not interested in taking it very seriously. Or if you
Yeah.
do, let's laugh about it. If there is something deadly serious, then what can artists do but give perspective and reveal a truth from it, or be able to have people respond with laughter because it's so horrifying. I
Well, fool is definitely better than cool. I agree with you on that. And you know,
I think I
I don't
learn
know.
more. Yeah.
It's more fun. I guess you know what? For me, it's just more genuine, frankly, to
Yeah.
be foolish, or stupid, or funny when I'm lucky. Cool was more of a pose, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's all a matter of perspective. I guess to some people I was cool, and to other people I wasn't cool. Believe me, on that like music scene, you're so stratified or whatever. So you're here, you're cooler than these people. but then there's these people who are pissing down at you. So
Well, I always thought if the work is cool, then it doesn't matter what I'm like. Like if if you make cool stuff, then it kind of like sits there, and even a goofball can make cool stuff. I don't know, whatever.
yeah,
I'm. So what's going
separate the
on?
work from the artist.
Well,
Because I'll probably be canceled before this interview goes live and stuff. But remember,
okay,
the
yeah,
artist and the art are two different things. I am neither an artist nor art, but I think it's an important statement to make.
yeah.
Sorry, so I think I interrupted.
I agree, but this is like a show, but it's not really a show. It's just
I
me
saw.
having it.
Did you post anything else besides oh my God, I forgot the guy's name who did the Sharky's Machine cover. He's like what you did an interview with him. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
You did a Sharky's Machine cover?
He did, yeah. Like what was
Oh,
it
Mike
called? Chin
Clellan,
music.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's yeah.
Yeah, that was
I've
the
noticed that they're
first
all
one.
bald men. That seems to be the theme.
I'm gonna get canceled for that. I just I don't
No, we're victims. We're hairless. I prefer
hairless
hairless. Yeah.
to bald, yeah.
I don't know. There must be some term I can use to state victimhood as a man with a receding hairline. I don't know.
Well, I think
That's Jamie. She's our rescue.
Jane. Hmm?
Yeah, Jamie. She has cancer, but hopefully she won't be. Hopefully she's in remission.
Yeah.
We're kind of hospicing because a lot of my kids are allergic. So my wife thought it'd be a good idea to get a cat that might die soon, just in case the kids are deathly allergic to it.
Goodness gracious.
You should interview Helena. She's much funnier than I am. But so far, none of the kids are allergic. They all love the cat, and the cat is healthy. So,
okay, good. Cat on an installment plan. So, I'm just gonna be so random. The only thing there was this book called Death on the Installment Plan. I don't know.
Yeah, Celine. He's one of my favorite writers. Anti-Semite, but a great writer.
And then I recently was sort of having mantras out loud one Saturday after meditating, and I decided, look, it's time for me to own Finnegan's Wake and start reading that. And I told my therapist that, and he was really alarmed.
It's not in any known language, as I understand it, right?
He was alarmed that I felt, and I bought the hard cover of Finnegan's Wake.
Have you read the Dublin stories or whatever?
Dubliners, no.
The Dubliners, right?
Or Ulysses,
or the Portrait of an Artist.
I've started to read Portrait of an Artist.
You're just going right off the deep end then, huh?
Yeah. I think it was a matter of like, I mean, did you ever see Spider by Cronenberg?
I don't remember.
With Ray Fiennes. Ray Fiennes, and he plays this mentally ill guy, and it's based on a book. And it was basically Cronenberg's reaction to the mental ill movie by Ron Howard, the feel good with
the
gladiator guy,
like had numbers coming out of it.
It's like a wonderful it's a wonderful mind. Beautiful mind. And I think this really pissed off Cronenberg. That he's like, schizophrenia is not fun,
so I'm gonna look that one up. I can't remember if I saw it or not, and I'm always looking for movies to watch, so I have something to draw the next day.
By the end, but the same thing happens in Crumb with Charles Crumb, is that his writing gets just to be scribbles, gets really small, and it's all just scribbles, and that's what the character in Spider does too, and it just seems. I think
what? I think I have seen it.
Yeah,
My wife's sort of a hoarder of people with mental illness. She's always looking to bring them in. So, of course, Spider is, I guess, a fictional character, but who knows?
Yeah, wow.
We've had some people, stay briefly with us.
Yeah.
It's interesting, a little uncomfortable.
Does she work in the field?
I hoard like more traditional things, like books and records.
Yeah, I hoard books and DVDs, and Is she in the field of
She's an RN, but she's always been a nut magnet. She put out a fanzine called Nut Magnet back in like the early 90s when she moved to New York. I don't know if you ever saw it.
No.
Just people writing about like crazy people that were attracted to them and stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, it was nice. It was like a little story. I did one and a lot of other people, and a little illustration. Danny Hellman did the illustration for mine.
Okay. You were in a film recently.
Tony Millionaire did the cover, which is
okay.
Yeah.
You were in a film recently?
Yes, I have been. This friend of ours, who's a professor at the Cal State Fullerton, one of the state schools here, he actually did for 10 years, he was working on a movie about Tony Millionaire, kind of like a Crumb, but a documentary about Tony. And Helene and I were talking heads in that, as well as like Kaz and Johnny Ryan and tons of other people, Danny and people like that. But then he did a thing for Helena. She had this idea with Tony's then wife, Becky, called Crisis Van, where we just bought a minivan because our kids have played double bass and we needed the space. And so she had the idea of like this, like kind of like serial episodic show where they, crazy people would call them, they'd get in the crisis van, drive to them and resolve their crisis. And they actually did like I guess an episode of it. It was very funny. And this guy, Tim, the professor, filmed it. And he's a really good director. He did a really great job. He did it all for free. So Helena felt very indebted to him. So she's in the movie. He has a bigger role than I do. And I'm in the movie. And it just wrapped at our house. They filmed the last scene here on Saturday. So it's like it's you got a grant. It has like professionals at the top tier, and the students also were involved in the production. I'm not an actor. I don't know anything about filmmaking, but it seemed very professional. I mean, they seemed like a real kind of, whatever.
So he's making a documentary on Tony Millionaire, but there's another film that you were in. That's right. The Crisis Band.
He made the documentary about Tony.
It's finished.
He tried to get it into the festivals, but then COVID hit.
Okay.
And then he got a grant to make this film with his students, and that's what he just finished now. It's a narrative feature. So it's
okay, got it. What's it called?
It's called The Faculty. It's a kind of like a Kafka-esque noirish.
Doesn't he know there's a movie called
campus movie?
Doesn't he know there's a movie called The Faculty already about?
Yeah, I guess he does.
Didn't matter.
Fuck it. I'm doing it anyway. I got the money, I'm doing it.
Okay.
So that was an experience because I'm not an actor at all, but I just kind of play an administrator, so it's like a heavy. I'm like a heavy, so I just got to wear a suit and talk, sort of aggressively, which I can do.
Good.
I guess my mom's an actress, so I've got a little something maybe from her.
I think it's raining out. Yeah. Okay.
Good. Maybe the heat will break.
Yeah, like in Glen Ross, maybe it'll break the heat.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that movie. I especially love the fact that they filmed inside the China Bowl. Remember that restaurant in Times Square?
Really?
When they walk out, it's like it looks like some under the L in Queens or something. I don't know. But in the interiors are the China Bowl, which was this Chinese restaurant in Times Square that had this beautiful bar. Well, you see it in the movie. I mean, that's what it looked like. Nobody would ever go there, and the drinks were super cheap, and it was right off Times Square on like 43rd or 44th Street off of Broadway, I think. Like it was right off. It was a great place to hang out before you would go to see like a triple feature at one of those, 42nd Street theaters.
Yeah, the last thing I saw, that's me. I hear this. I heard this sound, and I think it's me.
You don't have
talking.
A fan on. I could turn it off.
No. I think it's my voice going and coming out of your speaker and then back into me.
You're hearing
It's like a.
I don't hear it. It sounds fine to me.
It's only when I start speaking, or I don't know what it is. It's scaring me though, but I like being scared. And the last movie I saw in 42nd Street, like sleazy theater, was chud, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Classic.
And it's the moment, or it's the experience where that the venue, that the theater is more scary than the movie.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's
that's what was. You got a lot for your money back then.
that
People
was the
would bring their
thrill.
entire
Yeah.
families, and they would have like full takeout meals, and little babies were screaming during cannibal holocaust. They had no right ever. Most of us had no right ever to be in a movie like that, and yet there it was. It was those were fun. I really got pissed off when, was it Jenny Holitzer? Is that her name? The
Holzer?
artist?
Yeah.
Holzer. When she when the theaters all closed down and there was some kind of art project where she put, her slogans on the marquees. It just felt like, that was just wrong. I guess I've had a chip on my shoulder about it ever since, and I've not liked her work ever since. Well, I
Wow.
didn't know her work before, and since then I just am not, just don't appreciate it. I guess I just didn't
Was
like
that-
it. It was just like it didn't. It also didn't like it was just like her slogans. It had no relation to the context, which it could have been something more interesting instead of
That
just
at
like
least
regurgitating her whatever her ideas.
text. Was this as it was after it was cleaned up?
It was in the process. It was when the
Yeah.
theaters were basically closed down. I think
Right.
it was when the theaters were all closed down, so they were vacant, but they were
It-
still
but it-
there. They weren't raised yet.
But it was offensive because there was no suggestion of what had been before. There was no sort of
No, it was
that
just her
what's
typical
missing?
things like, do you like shopping or whatever the fuck she says. I can't remember. They're all, to me, that's inane. I don't really find her work very interesting.
Okay.
That'll get me canceled, huh? People even
No
know
one's gonna watch this show, man. I mean, this is just about me talking to you and giving and
I want to get canceled.
you want to get canceled?
Canceled.
You have to get it be important
I
first.
feel like
You have
it'd be
to-
something interesting. It'd be the biggest thing in my life,
Well,
I'm invisible right now, so canceling would kind of like raise my.
you have to be big before you can get canceled. Who got
thanks a lot.
canceled?
Hey, fuck you.
Listen,
I'm not big, huh?
look, this is the venue to prove that you're big.
Okay.
You're big
all
because I know you and because you're an excellent presence on the Facebook and you pump out this spectacular art on a daily basis. I wouldn't know who died recently unless I go on Facebook and see your caricature.
It's amazing how many people don't read the obituaries. I thought everybody read the obituaries.
I pour through them, but I'm like 10 years behind.
I start the paper backwards. I still get like the physical paper, and I start it backwards because, I can read the obituaries. Are usually there.
You're a
back,
ghoul.
First section, yeah. They're good. They're like they are little biographies. Can't tell you how many people I've been introduced to after they died.
That's the best time to get to know them. Otherwise they're a moving target.
That's true. They'll
never know
disappoint you otherwise.
They're going to be the wrong friend to be. Well, maybe you do want to get the wrong friends and be canceled by association.
Yeah, maybe. I tend to be like you. I don't enjoy crowds and stuff or socializing. It seems very nice as a concept, and it often is okay at first, but it wears thin on me pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's like I've made my best work when I've been, isolated and kind of like, because usually if I'm around people doing creative work, my people pleasing comes out, and I want to make everybody around me happy, and then I don't necessarily make the choices that are the best artistic choices, but the best is everybody happy. So
when you did like your movie, like with my sister and stuff, was there no collaboration on that? And was it just you kind of as telling people what to do? And
exactly.
Yeah.
I was doing line readings. No, say it like this.
Really?
No, we love the leader. No, not we love the leader. We love the leader. No, it's like, yeah, exactly. I would give them line readings, and if they got it wrong, I'd tell them the right way to do it. Plus, if it wasn't perfect, I'd be like, let's move on, because it was film, not video, so it was costing a little more money. But she wanted to be cut out of the film.
That. that's I don't usually have that kind of clear idea. I usually work by accident, so I respect somebody who has a very um, whatever clear picture of what they want and
Well, there's two
are able
ways
to
of
articulate it.
There's two ways I do it. One is it's all written at home and then I execute it like that one. And I wanted to make like a narrative, like Ticket to Heaven is an awesome movie about cults in the 70s with Nick Mancuso. But I was like, I don't have the budget and I don't have the resources to make that. So why don't I make this sort of Monty Python like clever idea to get the information across? So it was all written, and but other ones I like right along the way, like if they're just like Death of Sex or whatever, or Blood and Fire, I get people I want to be in the films, I get props, I get a set, and I just start fucking around, and then I make it in the editing room. So there's like two ways of doing it, like, and the guide to critical thinking or whatever, that was the same deal, where I would write the lines and I would get the t-shirts and I would have everybody do
that
stuff.
was great. That was great.
And even the feature, I just had my friends just repeat lines and repeat them back, and no acting was involved.
Do you ever do what's his name, the Mike Lee style of Mike Lee will like grab a bunch of actors and just basically improvise over a year until a story kind of develops. I mean, it's kind of a fascinating way of doing something, and his movies really are great. So
yeah,
definitely for him.
Yeah, no, I actually had seen him being interviewed at Museum of the Moving Image just before I made A Forked World with James, and I thought we would do it that way. I thought I would get the actors and like have them mud wrestle or do all these like exercises to sort of like almost like Essalon, like the encounter sessions, because they were supposed to be sexually intimate. So I thought, and they were like, no, we just get them to show up and repeat the lines, and if the camera was working and the sound was working, you move on. So yeah, there's these
when we were doing
ideas.
this film, Helena was wishing that there would be more like, since this, we're both not actors, right? So she was like saying, I wish that they would, he had this idea for the character, which was kind of the opposite of what she is. So it was hard for her to just like, I don't know if you've seen, like she's done like, she's written like, first person stories and performed them out here. When she's done them, I've usually posted them, like, did a Facebook Live or whatever, but she's very funny, does these stories, and she has a real presence that, when she's not an actress, but she has real presence, but she wasn't able to sort of like, be, do like have freedom to do that in this film. They had a more, I guess, rigid idea of what she should do. So, and she had to memorize. We all had to memorize, which is, I think, the best part of acting. Yeah.
I mean, I think, half of the battle is casting the right person, and then, but I mean, and a lot of it's like, well, for me, it's like, who can I get? And if they show up, a lot of times people don't show up, and then I had to like write stuff on the set and like with the people I had. So, but it's also like, there's you work within your means. If you have no means, you just use dolls and then you write along the way. What else is going on?
Besides that,
or should we delve into the past and name drop?
Whatever you want. Right now, Helena is she's involved with Extinction Rebellion, which is one of these nonviolent civil disobedience environmentalist groups. And she's very concerned about the environment. And here we are living in Southern California. And she's also feels like there's another housing bubble and we own our home. And she really wants to sell this place and get out of Dodge. And that's kind of like what's been on the sort of front burner for a while recently, about just where would we go and how would we do that? And of course, right now my oldest son is in USC and he's getting tuition assistance because Helena's works for the USC hospital. She works for one of their hospitals. So whatever, it's a little bit of a knot, but that's what's going. That's kind of like the narrative right now.
What's your son studying?
He's studying computer science. He's not like us. He wants to make a living.
Yeah. Goodness. Well, good luck with that. We own our place. We're still paying it off. And we
Yeah, so we,
decided
I mean, the
we're
banks really are.
yeah, we're decided to sort of like, die here. I'm always like jumping to the nursing home. I don't want to be on the street, and I want to be in a nursing home that doesn't hit me if I want a second order of yellow Jello, or that
I know
they'll
you
they'll,
start
cha-
thinking about that kind
they'll
of stuff.
change my diapers, fairly frequently, especially when I got a load, so I don't get diaper rash at But I'll probably just have a heart attack, in the next 10 years if
You
I'm
never know. I
lucky.
mean, that's the best way to go. My friend Mike McPadden. I don't know if you knew Mike, but he just died. I guess now 6 months ago, maybe. But he did
Oh
like
yeah.
that. He just like was
Oh
either a
yeah.
heart attack or a stroke. I don't know what it
Was
was,
he
but it
living
was
was he living
in
here in New
Chicago. He
York
was
or
in
Chicago?
Chicago. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
from New York, but he was living in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, I was Facebook friends with him, but I couldn't remember where I met him, but I was in the Chicago Underground. I might have met him there.
He moved to Chicago maybe 20 years ago. I don't know, but
That's
you would have known him in New York. He's in your film of Lisa. He had like the Happy Land fanzine. He was in bands, and he was part of that whole scene. You
he
probably
was
met him there.
he was always posting like Gas Pump Girls or something, or Flash Pants, all these movies from the 70s. Was
He
that him?
wrote two books on he wrote like a heavy metal movies, and then his like magnum opus on teen sex comedies that he's been
That's the guy.
thinking about for most of his adult life.
So, oh
Yeah,
well.
and he
Well,
also had like a podcast on crackpot cinema and things like that. That
well,
was his milieu. Yeah,
well, that's a fucking loss, I would say. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean, of course, yes, it is. I was just bringing it up because like as
Heart
sad
attack.
as it is, because he was only like 52 or something, 53. I mean, if you're going to go, you don't want to linger. Elena's a cancer nurse, and she's seen enough of that.
Yeah, I
Not,
I
not
agree.
pretty.
There's no argument there. Now, as a nurse, do people or men like have heart attacks while they're masturbating, but and it's just not recorded or publicized?
I'm sure they do. I guess you could. I think about that when I'm on the toilet,
Because Elvis
maybe
went
I'm a
that
little
way.
constipated, and
Yeah,
I wonder, like, they're going to find me here,
like
but at least I'm
Elvis.
dying doing something I love. So,
Yeah, like Elvis, I guess, was on the toilet.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I was just
there's a precedent. Yeah.
so where would I go to find these statistics about like, are these men dying of a heart attack masturbating?
Do you think the CDC tracks that kind of thing? I have no idea. I'm not really, I can ask Helena, but I'm not very knowledgeable about
All
medicine,
right.
but it could be. There's probably some academic somewhere who is, keeping tabs on that.
Okay. So, but you worked for Screw Magazine, am I correct?
Yeah, it was my first editorial job,
All
first
right.
editorial salaried position a long time ago. Yeah, I remember it was when David Aaron Clark was leaving, and I went to interview with, I guess it was probably Manny, or maybe it was just with Eric, I don't remember, but they gave me an editorial test, and I'm not very good at grammar. And I remember I was there for, it seemed like hours, and Eric finally came in, and I still wasn't done. And he goes, I got to go home. And he took the test of incomplete or incomplete. And the couple of days later, I was told I got the job. And I was like, Eric, how did I get this job? It was just like, you were the best of all the candidates. Gives you an idea of the
What year?
level of talent.
What year was it?
It was in the early 90s. Let's see, I think it was 93. I think it was, or 92, somewhere around there. It was not the heyday of Screw, but still fun. We were still on 14th Street. And then we moved to like 23rd or somewhere around there. It was a great job. Good
And
place to work.
I used to watch his cable show. Was it?
Midnight Blue,
Yeah. And he would, I guess he would have rants, or Al would have like rants and
Oh yeah, his Screw Yous, yeah.
yeah.
He was hard to deal with, but he left editorial alone for whatever reason. He let us just, he would say like if he wanted to do something about Giuliani or whatever, but otherwise he just let us do pretty much what we wanted. We would go into an editorial meeting with him, and I remember he told me he thought that I had my ear on the street. He had no reason to make that statement, but at least it made, it's like good. And if he liked you, he would like insult you. So, that's how you knew you were in okay with him. But he was a character, it was definitely worthwhile. You didn't get rich, but it was, worthwhile working there.
And I guess Charles Pinion worked there, and maybe Ivan Lerner.
Ivan worked there for Midnight Blue. Charles worked there. Oh my God, there's what's his name is Kevin was the art director. Ken Weiner was the art director, I think, before him. And what's his name? Oh my God, there were a lot of great artists who came through there.
Did Mike Edison?
Josh Allen Friedman was an editor there. That's where he wrote Tales of Times Square, I think.
Did Mike Edison work there?
Yeah, after me, I think after Al lost the paper, I think Mike and Kevin and somebody else were able to get the brand or whatever, and were able to put it out for a while before it eventually just, went under. I mean, Al was always constantly trying to create, he had a gadgets magazine and tons of these other magazines that failed, almost immediately. Only Screw would make money, but it made him a lot of money. But he could never, he once had, I think, I don't know, National Screw or something like that, where he was trying to basically do a glossy like Hustler. I mean, Hustler took kind of the Screw template and made it national and glossy. But he was never able to succeed outside of the tri-state area, really. But he did well. Every Wednesday, all the people would come into the office, with their money for their ads, and he, for a while he was, riding pretty high. He was the one, he went to didn't he go all the way to the Supreme Court? I can't remember, but he was the one who set the precedent that basically allowed those magazines to, that filth to be in your home.
So Milos Forman has to make a film about Al.
Well, let's hope not, because we don't need any more of that ridiculous hero worship. Larry Flint was a fascinating character too, but these movies romanticize the whole shit. And it's just not, it's not right.
Yeah, I asked an ex police detective, NYC, what movie or TV show best portrays life as a cop, and he said none of them. And I
not
said,
even Barney Miller.
I said, not even Serpico? He's like, well, maybe. Yeah. He's like, and I said, because of the moral ambiguity, the gray area. And he's like, exactly, yeah, because it.
I had a friend who worked, but after I left Screw, because Mike was working at a magazine called Genesis, another porn magazine, a glossy.
Yeah.
And he recruited me, and I went over there, and then that magazine folded. But when it folded, this young kid, he must have been 20, grew up in the Upper East Side with the Lower East Side with radical parents, and was this Pat Buchanan conservative. He ended up going into the police force, and he just retired a couple of years ago. And I was talking to him, and he hated the NYPD. And this is a conservative kid, not a kid anymore, but he just hated it. He just hated it. It was a terrible place, he said.
Any specifics or?
I don't know. It just, he just all these people were they were from Long Island. None of the cops lived in the city anymore. They were just a bunch of yahoos, even by his standards. And
what era is it?
Well, let's see. I guess Genesis went under in the mid 90s, and he went into the police force right after that, and he retired 20 years later. So he basically retired at in his 40s, and is now just does art. and living off his pension.
Yeah, I have another
Worked out
friend who
well
lives
for
in
him.
the Bronx. He's not part of law enforcement or anything, but his take on it is that as far as like TV versus reality or movies versus reality, is that like detectives or cops don't like solve cases, they close cases, meaning like they're given an assignment, you got to close this case, and then they do it. It's not like, I guess, Hercule Poirot or whatever who
Right.
comes in and I don't know, they don't, or I guess the idea of, they're not trying to pick up, I guess his point was they're not trying to search out crime to solve. They're given a crime they need to solve, like they're
Sure, there's a
assigned it.
murder, and
So maybe it's not so different from TV. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and talk to that
I'm
friend and
sure that there are
clarify.
good ones and bad ones.
Yeah,
There are the ones that are obsessed, like the TV cops, but whatever.
but
Um,
Serpico, the good cop, he was a wife beater, right? He was a. So there we go. My hero, my childhood hero's gone.
I just rewatched Serpico actually.
Allegedly, I don't know. I heard you did. You watched Serpico?
Again, yeah, and it used to be on TV all the time when we were kids, and
Yeah,
like actually, I probably was on the networks because it came out like in '72, so it was probably like a big movie night.
yeah,
Um, and all I can think of is like Al Pacino's acting and his wardrobe. So I
yeah.
guess he was trying to act like the original Serpico. He was like kind of hunchback. He would wear all those '70s kind of funky clothes.
And he would go in disguises. I guess that was true. Like
Yeah,
he even went as a rabbi or a Hasidic Jewish
but I
person.
definitely revisit those movies that I saw growing up. Like on the channel 5 or channel 9 or channel 11. They seem to have bought out like a lot of the movies from the late '60s and the early '70s, and they must have been cheap. Like you'd see everything from The President's Analyst to Silent Running to all these like weird movies. And I knew nothing about them, but there's nothing else on TV, so you're going to watch something. You're going to watch that show, and serendipitous. You discover a lot of really great cinema that way because it was an interesting era.
I used to just go to Kim's Video and rent like 3 films a day, and sometimes sleep through some of them, or some of the films like Something Weird by Herschel Gordon Lewis. Like
Oh yeah, yeah.
you swear you dozed off and woke up. You're like, did I doze off and wake up? What's going on? Or like, there's one that he shot, but his fingerprints are all over it, called The Psychic, which is amazing too. It's like, I think he shot it for his friend, but it looks like he took over because has all the earmarks. But it's like a lot of it's like you swear you dozed off
Yeah,
and
a
then
friend of
woke
mine says like, I think it was Mike who would say like, that movie was really boring. I mean, great, because there's usually like, one scene in the 90 minutes that makes it worthwhile, but the rest of the time you're like this, trying to stay awake.
Yeah, I think the last one that I rented was The Sinful Dwarf, and I just was like, this is just so. I mean, I had to take 3 showers after I watched it. It just seems so
But I was talking
sleazy.
about before like VCRs and before
Yeah,
all that, like,
yeah,
when you just watch syndicated TV, when you were a kid, and you did those technologies weren't there, and you couldn't go out to you were 10 years old or whatever, or younger or older. But because now there's just you can kind of pinpoint your entertainment. You can and you kind of like miss out. Like there's so many like amazing movies on Amazon Prime if you have it, but they're deeply buried under everything. You have to search them out. It's like the difference between New York and Los Angeles, where in New York you can kind of stumble around and discover things, but in Los Angeles you have to do the homework and make it a destination. So it's just
yeah.
shocking.
I
What's
used to I used to rely on like Siskel and Ebert to like either point to good films, or they would say our forgotten masterpieces, or like
Yeah,
overlooked, and I'd thought I have to watch those, and
or their
that's how.
dogs of the week, which were
Yeah,
usually worth watching too.
but my father would take me to R-rated movies, so I got to see Cuckoo's Nest when it came out, and bunch of other
I
stuff.
saw Clockwork Orange that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't remember how old I was.
my mother
My
wouldn't
dad
let
took
me see that. That was forbidden. But I
Yeah,
was
that's the
obsessed with
difference.
Kubrick. I was like, that was like the film I had, I became obsessed over. And I
Ah, yeah,
remember,
he's great. I watched Barry Lyndon for the second time. The first time I was like so bored. The first time was probably like when I was 10 or 12 years old. And I came back to it, and now it's like one of my favorite of his movies. It's just so great.
yeah,
But then I watched Eyes Wide Shut, and I realized, well,
yeah,
the guy can have some clinkers.
yeah. Well, he didn't, Killer's Kiss is pretty unwatchable, and Fear and
Mhm.
Desire is a little better, even though he hated it. But Eyes Wide Shut, I can't get my head around that one either. I think, it's been influential, but I don't know. It's just
It's like a
over,
comedy
over.
without jokes,
Yeah,
right? I
it's
mean,
like
it seems like it's
overbaked.
supposed to be like not serious, like, oh, this is not even satirical, but just trying to be like funny, but there's nothing funny about it, which is kind of funny in itself, but
or
not
really
offensive in
or really
itself.
fake. There's something supposed to be really fake about it, in that it's but it hasn't it never got to me. But and I've tried to watch it uh again and again, and I've sped it up actually about 60%, with my uh technology. I can speed it up to like half of the length, and readjust the pitch of the voices, so
Uh-huh.
they speak in the same pitch. But and some scenes look completely normal. They don't feel like they're speeded up, because everything seems to
Yeah.
be this weird, slow, and deliberate line reading. It's almost like he's hypnotized by that rhythm, and that it somehow puts him in kind of some
Like
kind
a
of.
like a trance state. I mean, some of the
Yeah,
scenes are okay. Watching it again, I was like, okay, some things are, what's his name? Is it Sidney Pollack? Is that his name?
yeah.
He's very good in it.
I hear he's good. I never got that. I don't know if I got to that point.
He just
And
seems like he just seems like a better actor than Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise. And I don't, I've seen them both act well in the past. So,
yeah, but I love Barry Lyndon. Once you just like
oh, that's great.
figure out
Yeah.
what's going on in that, and that he's not a hero. It's like he's kind of.
Yeah.
I guess the book is called The Luck of Barry Lyndon. I don't know how close it is to the book. I never read the
I've
book,
never
but
read the book. Yeah, I don't know.
I used to have it but I never got to read. I never read it. But and it's just the language is so great. That um
Yeah, there's that great scene where he sleeps with that guy's wife and he walks into whatever, clubhouse he's at, and he just like insults him. Oh, I don't remember the dialogue, but it's some great dialogue. You could look it up in
yeah,
the search if you like.
it's Charles Lyndon, like Marissa Berenson's old ailing husband, you know, and
Right.
he's so
That's right. That's right.
articulate, and he's like, and Barry just says these really stupid lines, but it sends the old man, who's like really brilliant and articulate, into like convulsions, and he
Yeah,
dies later, just
that's right.
because
Yeah, he
he's
dies.
like, he can't destroy Barry, because he's so stupid and
Yeah.
inarticulate, that
Oh,
it's like and it kills him. It's
that was a good one. Yeah, that was there are a
yeah,
lot of scenes like that. They're good. The
but
duel. I mean, there's so much stuff. I guess like even Eyes Wide Shut has that great scene in the costume shop where his daughter is with those two guys.
it's a really weird movie, and it's
Yeah.
like, I can't quite figure it out. But there's not a lot of great. I mean, The Shining
No.
has awesome,
Oh, The Shining.
memorizable dialogue and stuff, and scenes in the bar with a uh, with
I like The Shining, but Helena got obsessed with it a few years ago, and we watched it like over and over again, and it's just like got better and better and better.
yeah, yeah.
And the fact that Stephen King doesn't like it proves that it's really
And then
a
he did his
masterpiece.
own version, and it was a mess.
Oh, which is horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible. I can't. I never read any Stephen King, so I can't say. But
I couldn't get through it. I tried again recently. I'm sort of getting into. I'm not really a fiction dude, but I kind of like H.P. Lovecraft because he's just all about terror and kind of like this
I
godless
nominate.
world terror.
Yeah, I read like what was it, At the Mouth of Madness, I think it's called,
Yeah,
and I gotta get back to him because it was just like very boring, or I didn't get. You got. I think you got to be into that kind of like cosmic horror, which I've had some existential panic attacks recently, so maybe I'm now tuned into what he's
yeah.
talking about,
That's
like
more.
existential.
That's more HP. He really talks. He really speaks subjectively about just being like sick and nauseous from terror.
Yeah.
Which I can, you know, which I enjoy reading more. Plus, I think his prose is a little more musical than. I tried some Dennis Wheatley too, and it didn't. I don't
I
know.
don't
It
know
didn't
him.
work. He wrote "The Devil Rides Out," which is this Hammer film with Christopher Lee
Oh,
as a good guy, and there's like a dude. Uh, there's like a character based on Aleister Crowley in it, and there's there's almost a human sacrifice, and the devil rides out, and even the devil shows up in it too.
yeah.
And
I'll
Dennis
have to
Wheatley,
look that one up.
the movie is pretty cool. It's not
Uh,
great, but it came out the same year as Rosemary's Baby, and I feel bad for
uh,
for it because their devil movie like is just not doesn't even
Rosemary's Baby
compare.
was Helena's pregnancy movie. Whenever, we had 3 kids, and each time she got pregnant, that movie was in
It was
heavy rotation.
on repeat. Goodness gracious! And how did your kids turn out?
They're okay.
They're
None of them have
okay.
their father's eyes. I have blue eyes. They all have brown eyes.
Okay.
But they're okay. They're okay.
All right.
Certainly, no Rosemary's Baby there, but I can understand there's that. I mean, I can begin to understand what it must be like to have like this life force inside you, basically taking away your life force. It's taking the what it needs before you get them and stuff, and growing in there.
The top
Sort of,
shelf nutrients.
yeah, sort of parasitically, I guess. Though it does eventually leave.
Goodness.
I can understand this sort of the urge to see that movie. It's a great movie too. So
I usually like before I landed in the psych ward, I was watching Animal Crackers, the Marx Brothers movie over and over.
yeah,
So now I know that if I ever start have an urge to watch Animal Crackers, I'm like, I gotta
a red flag. Huh?
I gotta check
Trying
myself
to take a
before
few
I
Xanax.
double up on the Xanax. I gotta check myself before I wreck myself. So who was the last person to be canceled?
Oh, I don't know. It happens every day. I don't know. It's just interesting to me, that whole idea. Certainly, a lot of people who've been canceled have exhibited incredibly poor behavior, but there's also like a side of it that feels very dangerous, I guess. Like very fascist in a sense, and
Well, it seems like the blacklist was sort of this unspoken, like, oh well, there's just no place for your script is not good. It's like I even posted the front as a kind of like it's kind of happening with the different side that it puts a chill in free speech. But I'm always skeptical about my perception, or my perspective. I don't, because I only watch YouTube, so I know the algorithm is figuring me out and feeding me what it thinks I want, and so
right.
I can't pretend to have a balanced view to make
Well,
a
I think
grand
that's good. I
statement.
mean,
Yeah.
being skeptical is important, and one of the things that bothers me is that often people who are demanding sensitivity and support and understanding are the least sensitive, least supportive, and least understanding. When something falls against whatever they believe in. And
Yeah,
that's dangerous to me. And they don't seem to be very like self-reflective. A lot of people don't seem to be very self-reflective. And I guess maybe I'm more like you, where I'm always second guessing myself and I'm always unsure, and willing to hear the other side. I just don't like the idea of this sort of absolutism that seems to be part of that, this culture, like you're either with us or against us. That's,
seems too
I'm
much
not,
like sports. I don't like sports and I don't like politics. When I
yeah,
when
like
I
teams.
met my wife and we were going to move forward with living together and marrying and buying, being grown up, it's like terrifying. My drinking increased, um, but as my grown up responsibilities increased. But I basically said, look, if I hate sports, and she was, I don't know, into baseball or something, and I hate the news, I hate politics, so you have to pick one or the other to sacrifice. And she sacrificed the sports because it's, and God bless her, we hasn't watched any sports in the house, but I kind of wish we had watched sports. But there's a similarity, there's the same kind of like, my team's got to win, and like
Yeah,
it's like
it's like
there's this
nationalism.
it's tribalism,
Yeah.
and it's not it's a matter of, and it's also a matter of, just like conspiracy theories behind it, is there's this kind of utopian idea that there's really good people and we have to get rid of them, or that there's a certain,
Right.
that there's like an unredeemable evil in a person, rather than there's people can say foolish and thoughtless things, and that there should be room for people to either apologize or set the thing straight, and plus there should be forgiveness in it. But I just think with this internet, people are given this power to be able to
Yeah.
tear people down, and it's so enticing to be able to tear people down, and there's such a cathartic, and
Oh,
plus there's
yeah.
from hitting from a distance, it's a whole sniper thing, or you
Exactly. I
can
was
do
going to
these
say
things anonymous.
it's like road rage or something
Yeah.
behind the keyboard. It's the same kind of concept because you wouldn't do that in front of somebody's face.
And hopefully, it's the Milgram experiment, but hopefully all this, people will get like, it'll find its new balance or whatever, I mean,
Yeah, I hope
who
so.
knows?
Something's
I
going
don't
to have
know.
to happen.
I mean, the generation is going to grow up where this is already known. Like
Well,
I
let's
know,
hope the generation grows up because every generation thinks that they're hot shit and then they realize they're just shit. I
right.
mean, that's just basically the trajectory of life. And that's not a bad place to be, really, to lose a little of that self-righteousness and be more questioning,
Humble and
humble.
humility. It's like, but plus, people understand humiliation, but what the healthy thing is having humility. And
Right.
it takes a bit of, if you're really scared, then you're gonna be a little more deadly with things. It actually shows an insecurity that people are being so vicious rather than insecurity in it.
Very insightful. You're like Dr. Joyce Brothers of the internet.
Do you have
But you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. But whatever,
they're not
that's
gonna
just,
they're not gonna
it's
admit to
funny
that. What?
because when we were, growing up, there was a lot of that, like what was called PC culture back then. But it's like, the volume has been turned up so much recently. It's not, I mean, it makes that time seem almost innocent, not quite, but it's, it's just gotten more, it's ramped up, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Is it just too much fun?
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe it's like, maybe the technology, amplified a lot of it and gave it a sort of a platform, like you said, where people can sort of scale and have this power, and power is a dangerous thing, Um, Maybe it's generational. People just like looked back at what older people did and said that was terrible. We got to be better, and kind of swung too far in terms of being I don't know, prescriptive or whatever. I don't. I have no idea. These are just
I
assumptions.
think it's like looking back at the past and not understanding that these people, I don't know, somebody like Hemingway. I saw the Hemingway documentary that what's his face made,
Right.
Mr. Jazz, Mr. Civil War, Mr.
Mr. Jazz, Mr.
Baseball.
Baseball, Mr.
You know, the
Civil War.
haircut, Mr. Haircut, documentary haircut guy.
What's his name? I can't. I'm blanking on his name, but he has a very innocuous
It's
name.
documentary haircut guy.
Yeah.
What's his name? He made, a decent documentary on Hemingway, and he's full of flaws, but like his parents were complete nut jobs too. It's like his mother
Right.
was a failed, I don't know, opera singer who resented her husband for like stealing away her career. I guess her husband finally cracks and ends up in a mental hospital. I mean, look at his parents. His parents were even worse than he was. So it's like, we're making progress. It's like, have a little bit of sympathy for the assholes that came before you. What?
I like Celine is one of my favorite writers, and that guy would not want to be around me. He was a notorious anti-Semite. He's probably not a lot of fun to be around. But
you think he was unredemptive?
Unredemptive, collaborator during World War II and all that stuff.
Jesus Christ!
But his books are great. So you can't hold those two things in your head at once.
Yeah.
And people are complicated.
Yeah, I don't know the details of Celine. I know and I've never read any. I know that I've been reading H.P. Lovecraft, and I know he's had his
he's another anti-Semite.
He's another
racist.
and pretty racist guy. But he his father was nuts, and that he was just a terrified guy all around. He was just like a weakling kind of guy. And it's like, he kind of got better. Well, he kind of got better in his life. I mean, he'd be able to see like, okay, that was wrong thinking. He actually like matured in his, in thinking that wasn't.
Let's just put it out there. People are idiots. Remember like when there was that punch a Nazi meme? I mean, I'm Jewish, and it like upset me so much.
Well, don't you know that
punch a Nazi? Like, what the fuck? You're not, I can't even articulate it. It just drives me crazy. This like posturing and this bullshit. Like they think that they're like, in World War II. It's just, Actually, there's a great book about World War II that collects all of this newspaper articles and speeches and other, just sort of archival material, and creates this kind of pacifist kind of lens in which to look at World War II, where maybe not that it wasn't a good war. Maybe if we didn't go to war, millions of people would not be dead. Maybe if we just contained Hitler, as horrible as that sounds, that there would be a greater good, because there wouldn't be like Auschwitz and places like that. Now, I don't know, it's all speculation, but
I don't believe it for one second.
I think it's plausible, but it's just like, everybody wants to be like fucking Captain America and punch a Nazi.
But I mean, the thing is that you're just gonna
foolishness.
You're just gonna confirm what the Nazi believes, and when he has an opportunity to punch you, he will punch you.
I don't know if that's true. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, how many millions of people died in that war outside of the Holocaust, just in combat?
You really do want to be canceled.
It's not a question that you can answer yes or no.
Exactly.
It's not one that you could just be dismissive and say no or yes. It's complicated.
You're right.
So, whatever. It's just
Dave Chappelle.
That's what we're missing now. There's no like nuance.
Yeah.
There's no interest in like questions that don't have answers, which are basically the best questions. So,
Dave Chappelle, I heard, the conspiracy of kindness. He just like wants to be kind to people that are around him. It just seems like a team. It just seems like bullying, it just seems like ganging up. It just seems like a power trip. And I don't know, feeling righteous. I mean, because there's no real consequences we're not really fighting a war. We don't really have an enemy, and we just start taking it out on each other. And
I guess we need a boogeyman. So
we need those like aliens
Martians. Yeah, exactly.
We need
same idea. Yeah.
We need Michael Rennie, and we need Latu Tabatas and Ringo coming out of there, and Goodnight Vienna.
Independence Day or whatever.
You really do want to get canceled. Don't you?
I guess I don't care. I'm small fries. Nothing's going to happen to me. But you can't like really have a discussion anymore because, frankly, anything I say is going to, I might regret it the next day. I'm just kind of, thinking out loud, but you're not allowed to do that anymore.
Because
So,
it'll
or at
be
least not in a
weapon.
public sense. So
Yeah, it'll be weaponized.
it's
But
just like like you said, there's letting people don't forgive, or people don't say, oh well, maybe he's like in the process of learning. Maybe he's just an idiot right now, and he'll like realize that
yeah, because
whatever.
my understanding of H.P. Lovecraft is that he evolved out of his sort of racist thinking, and it was all just being afraid of the other. Like, it's not. It's just being
Right.
afraid of the other, and just having this lurking fear, which is one of his stories anyway, and just like being like a frightened guy from the get go. But but he evolved, and he kind of said, it's really about culture, not about these outward signs, and it's about just I don't know. It's I'm gonna just let all these other people work this stuff out. Just
Well,
let
like
grandma
he's a
keep to
complicated
his.
writer. He's worth reading, even though he's problematic. So,
But he doesn't.
and
It doesn't.
there are a lot of people like that.
Well, it
So,
doesn't really arrive. It doesn't really come up too much in his writing. I haven't read a lot, but I see where it does
I
come up. But and um, it's just we've come from tribalism, and we could go back there, and it's like
oh
afraid
yeah,
fear of the other, the fear of it's all. I mean, the world is it's all meeting itself with the internet. It's all connecting. All these cultures are like the universe and all. I mean, all the globe is talking to one another, and I just think it needs to come to a new equilibrium. And the postmodernists say there's no more grand narratives, and like everybody's story is colliding, or and it has to come to a new
yeah.
equilibrium. But I
I read.
think the
I
world
was
is a
just going to
click.
say I read it. Sorry, go
World
ahead.
world is a click away, a couple clicks
Right.
away, and you're in China, and you're hearing some guy. I've been listening to this guy who's lived in China for 10 years, and like has like a firsthand experience of and an interesting point of view, because he's kind of a vacationer. He's not a politician. He's just a businessman, and he has his take on China, the people, and the communist government, and how it got really commercialized, and then suddenly it's becoming more controlled. And so I'm listening, a couple of clicks away, and I can hear this guy talk for 10 minutes about his perspective. It's like that could never happen 10 years ago or whatever, or I don't know, or 15 years ago. It's like,
It was just reminding me when you said like the grand narrative of this interesting book I read called The End of Art, which was about basically about what contemporary art, and saying that contemporary art started when Andy Warhol displayed the Brillo boxes that were indistinguishable from the ones in your supermarket. Like until then, there was like a grand narrative in art for centuries, right? And even through the abstract expressionists, there was this story, and everybody was kind of responding. And now we're at a point after, like, he kind of ended that narrative, and now we're at a point where there isn't a grand narrative, and there's all this sort of like conceptual art, and there's just anything goes in a sense. I don't know if that's good or bad, but a lot of conceptual art or a lot of contemporary art leaves me kind of cold because I am very wedded to the materials. I like drawing, and a lot of art has moved away from drawing, and like to a place where you have to kind of read the little placard on the wall to understand what it is you're looking at. And you rarely, or at least I rarely, have a visceral response like I do with a drawing or a painting or something like that. It's a weird, there's certainly a lot of figurative artists, a lot of it's just there's everything now. It's just there's no, and I don't know if that's good or bad. It was an interesting book, the guy, just an interesting take on like art history.
yeah, I think with the Brillo boxes that we went into conceptual art, and I think
Right.
Duchamp is sort of the grandfather of that. And
But even he was part of the narrative, I mean, he was like, whatever the artist makes is art. But like Andy Warhol really made I can't remember how the writer made a distinction, because he certainly talked about Duchamp, but it was really Warhol creating something that was, completely distinct. It wasn't like putting a urinal in the museum and saying this is art. There's something different. It really was conceptual. I don't know. I'm not articulating it well. If you're
Well,
interested,
if I knew the book, maybe I could articulate it. I'm trying to see.
I think it's called The End of Art. The End of Art, or yeah, I think that's
Meaning,
what it's called. It's a famous book by some art historian whose name escapes me.
I always thought it was like, I'm not sure. I mean, I think of that transition from abstract expressionism to pop art in that and conceptual art in that the abstract expressionist is putting on canvas one's tortured soul or psyche. It's putting the inside of what it's like to be human on the outside, and sort of the Brillo pad is the outside looking at the outside with no and Warhol almost consciously said, I don't want to be present as an artist there. I just want this to be. And I think even Cage was like, I want to mimic nature rather than the human experience of
both artists
as a filter.
Who I like, I like Cage and Warhol.
Yeah, me too.
But I do think there's a line in the sand there. Yeah.
Well, I think like somebody like Schnabel tried to bring back abstract expressionism in a new way. I think he, by doing things on tarpaulin and that his canvases were conceptual in that he found them in strange places and stuff that it kind of brought in that's my understanding of this, an effort to bring in the conceptual and within and still work like figuratively and like an abstract expressionist. And I think also there was a market for it. Yeah, in the 80s there was just money, so we're like, we need something that's tangible that we can sell, and so there was a market forces for that to happen. But I was also natural painters and artists there to who were about the times and everything, and that had something to say.
A lot of it came from the street too,
Yeah.
Which is, to me, like the cartoonists are, the greatest artists. What they do is so much beyond what a fine artist can do. Like just drawing the sequential drawing is like magic to me. I still think that they're like the best. But then, I told you I have a prejudice towards line art and stuff. So, but I do find like that they can draw everything, and they can do movement and storytelling, and there's just so much going on. I like fine art too, but just think that they're one step above.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to it all seems to be like, well, what is it in service to
I don't know,
but that, I mean, that's just your personal preference.
So much of it is subjective, and that's my subjective take on it.
Yeah, but I mean, apparently there's this story of art that has a story, and the things that belong there are what fit the certain phases of how it grew and so forth.
But that story is sort of like, I think about that. There's so many people that fall out of that story, whether they're, they draw or they write or they make music or film or whatever. And, are they any better or worse than the people that have been sort of deemed the important artists? I don't know. We find new people that have been, buried and rediscovered all the time. And it's just, it's just so much of it seems to be just luck and, whatever other factors.
A lot of ambition too. And like
ambition, my wife, which is something I hate. I hate ambition.
Yeah. And my wife's writing a book on Jean Follett, and she was remarkable. She was this 50s painter, and she put a lot of like constructional things in her work, and but she just, she wanted to be Picasso, Jean Follett, and she just had personal disadvantages that just like and luck, as you said, bad luck, and So some of her most important work is lost, so.
A lot of the times it seems like the people that, get to that point where they're, recognized, publicly recognized, they tend to be ambitious, aggressive, and, somewhat self-serving and, not very positive attributes.
Yeah.
But they also might be good artists, but, they're also kind of like, they're always, talking about themselves or pushing their stuff in front of your face. And it just seems unpleasant.
I agree. You think you're safe in the world of art, that you can just, I don't.
So, if you like to, I like to draw, so I draw, I mean, it's kind of as simple as that. A lot of people talk about, like having blocks or things like that. And sure, it's possible. I don't know what's going on in their heads, but often people talk about work more than they work. So, if you want to do it, I feel like you'll just do it, if you kind of are compelled to do it.
I agree. I mean, whenever I don't believe in writer's block. I don't. I think it's not a lack of ideas. You just don't think they're any good. It's just like in The Shining, it said lots of ideas, no good ones. So it's a matter of me putting this bar that none of these ideas, and all I have to, and I've made this. Once I realize that I made this rule, then I can switch this rule. I can, I was like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to make something. I realized, oh, I have to finish everything I start. Allow myself not to finish something. Oh, I have to use everything. I have to own all the sound and the images. And I said, okay, I can use copywritten images. I'll make something that no one has to, no one. I don't have to show it to anyone. And that's where I could use copyrighted images and music. And I said, I don't have to finish anything. I don't have to show it to anybody. And so once I made these new rules, then it just got the engine going. And a lot of it is just getting past that. But
I like the idea of like making rules and then breaking them so that you kind of are motivated. I don't tend to have any rules. I mean, my attitude is that, just like finish and move on. So, I mean, like 99% of the things that I do, I'm dissatisfied with, but what does that matter? I guess there's another page, This is always going to be like the idea is never going to be able to be achieved or whatever. Like, you might sit down and say, I'm going to do this. And you look at it and you're like, didn't do that. Well, who cares?
all right, you're gonna reach this goal with whatever you're doing. I mean,
Just
like,
sort of like I guess, it's a silly word, but process, right?
yeah,
It's not a product. It's just, you know, you like to do something, you keep doing it, you try to get better at it and try to,
feel like the result is not as important as the process of doing it. I mean, it's not
yeah,
unimportant, but it's secondary maybe.
yeah, the result is just like it's kind of a dead end.
Because I
And
think if the result is your primary thing, and the result has to, I don't know, make me famous or earn a living, it's like then
right.
you're gonna be in trouble. But
That's why you
I
shouldn't think that way.
right, yeah, and I've early on separated what I have to do to pay the rent and what I want to do as an artist. I mean, I made films as a kid and I drew and stuff. And then I thought I
Right.
would come to New York and go to NYU and become a professional something. And I realized I didn't really like it and I didn't really fit there. I mean, I didn't like really being on a crew. Didn't have money to make films, so I made music because I could write a song and it wouldn't cost, and if it was bad, it wouldn't cost me any money. So,
Right.
and then I would just like, okay, here's what I would do to pay the rent to work, and then I would be able to just do creatively what I
Yeah, what you
wanted.
want.
And then
Yeah.
within and in whatever medium, if I couldn't do film and afford that, I would do music. And if I couldn't, um, and just to keep that 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 muscle, or it's just like a voice. It's just like you speak
Yeah.
through a certain. It's like there's an artistic voice or something, and it needs to speak. And like I didn't. I guess I was spoiled as a kid because I was able to just make my own stuff in the basement or whatever, and
Kids should be able to do that. I
yeah,
call it like the William Carlos Williams model, right? He
right,
was he was a doctor because he enjoyed that work, and he was a poet because he knew that that would never pay the rent,
Who
even
was
as famous as he became.
yeah? Who was
So,
wasn't there an insurance guy?
oh yeah, well, what's his name was Raymond Chandler worked in oil, I think, but then he quit because he actually was able to make a living. And yeah, there was a poet. Was it Robert Loyal or I forget? There was some poet who
Oh,
worked in insurance,
yeah.
and you're gonna look him up, yeah, because he
I'm gonna
was
look him
he
up.
was an executive like in Connecticut or something, but he was also a poet. I mean, so I heard some poets say like poetry is like the best art form because you can never sell out. Nobody's buying, nobody wants it. You're never going to make a living. There's no temptation. You can just do what you want to do.
Wallace Stevens.
Wallace Stevens, you're right.
Yeah.
That's it.
And William Carlos Williams was a doctor.
Yeah. In
Hmm.
Patterson.
Okay, yeah, that was a. Did you see that what's his name movie with
I
Adam
liked it.
Driver?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Patterson movie. It was nice
yeah,
and slow, and I liked it.
yeah. It sounded good. And then he made a zombie movie, right? Did you see
I
that
didn't
one?
see the zombie movie. I think Iggy Pop is in that,
Yeah.
but I did like Patterson.
The hell's his name? The guy, the tall guy with the white
Jim
hair.
Jarmusch, right?
Jim Jarmusch. Yeah, he
Yeah.
did the sound on that Burroughs movie early on, and Tom
Oh
DeLillo
yeah.
did the camera.
Well, he was part of that whole sort of like scene that came out of like the No Wave with Nick Zedd and Richard Kern, and
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. You were part of that underground film scene as well.
Well, I was late to the game, but they certainly were an inspiration when I got my
Right.
shit together enough. I came out of the hospital. I had a failed romance, and I was hospitalized, and then I got out of the hospital. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna make those fucking films that I wanted to make," and I was
So
able
did you
to.
know those people like Agnes B or all those, people
No,
that were making films in
I
the
just saw Lydia Lunch speak about this documentary about her that Beth B made. That's at IFC.
oh Beth B, right? Yeah, what did I
Beth
call
B.
her? Yeah.
Agnes B is the clothing
Is the
designer.
closing designer. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, I'm too
Welcome to the
bourgeois.
senility corner. We should get everything wrong. Isn't that something? Oh, I
I
guess
think
it was that.
she should go by Agnes B, just
Of
to help me,
course,
just to help me.
Agnes and
Would be a mitzvah.
it certainly would. Come on, help us out. But she hasn't lost her edge, and it
No, she
wasn't a
just,
bet.
yeah, like you said, she just has that documentary on Lydia Lunch that just came out.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it at IFC, and I saw them speak. I asked her.
Oh, is it good?
Yeah, it's good. It's like it brings up, her father's shenanigans with her. She only says he did to a child what no parent should ever do to a child. So it's introduced sort of later. So it's not the definitive reductive, this is why I'm an artist, but it certainly fuels that trauma fuels where she's at, and it sort of
Uh,
explains the I can't feel anything unless it's extreme.
right.
And I mean, the interesting thing is that she was the driving force behind the first, I guess, Kern film, Right Side of My Brain, which Jay Hoberman, reviled and said was misogynistic. But Richard Kern in the film is like, well, this was all Lydia's idea. I guess she could be a misogynist. So that was interesting.
She's a very influential figure. She really has been, and she's been doing it for a long time. So.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that she's the strong woman behind the men there,
Yeah.
because even Jim Sclavunis talks like he was in a band with her. I guess I forget which one it was, but she said,
Eight-eyed spy, or
I think that's
what?
it. But
Yeah.
he has a nice bit in it where he explains that Lydia has to have sex with all the band members, and he explains to her that he's a virgin, and then set up a time and a place, and he said she was very gentle, and she took
Oh,
away
the gentle
virginity.
side of Lydia Lunch. It's nice that it exists. That's good.
And then there's this other scene where she does this horrible thing to a new band member or whatever, and like she actually gets the bass player when he's talking about it to cry. So it's like all these
God.
wimpy guys, but it's fine,
Being in a band is tough.
yeah. But no, she's she certainly was an influence in that time. And I just got the echoes of it. I didn't even realize the influence until later, that Carrie's problem was influenced by like Massacre, that Fred Frith and Bill Laswell and Fred Maher record,
Oh,
which
really?
is just like these artsy guys doing the contortions, and I didn't even know the
Yeah,
contortions, and it was like so
right.
so the you sort of see the influences maybe later looking back, rather
Right.
than
I
when
can
you're
see
within
that.
it.
That makes sense.
But I guess there is a I think there's a death of art because there's so many stories going on. There's not one story.
Well, that was kind of the premise that, the guy wasn't saying the contemporary art is bad, that
Right.
he likes a lot of contemporary art, but the sort of like, the that major, like you said, narrative thrust, that through line was gone.
Yeah, where it's like this is the
And
break.
with that, like it was hard for it to hold together. When anything goes, then nothing kind of like, I guess, stands out maybe.
I mean, my understanding is that, painting was this and it had these rules. Like, I don't know, the paints were certain colors were expensive, or these painters could only paint these really rich people who would commission them, or that,
Right.
or first it started with cave painting, and then there were easels and they went outdoors, and then photography came and that changed painting, and then
Right.
sort of like,
True.
and then,
But it was
um,
still the same story, right? It was still,
and apparently
it
you
was
can't,
influenced by outside, external forces, but it was
but it,
still the same story.
but it's about a certain region of the world and a certain group of people, and it's
Sure.
almost like,
Yes.
oh well, we can't go backwards, and like we have to go forward. The whole it's almost that the idea of art and the history of art is conceptual in and of itself, and that we're able to say what is art and what isn't art, and we're able to say this is a breakthrough of art because we've defined art this way, and this is how it's
Right.
different, so that's a breakthrough. And all these other things where these voices you might want to hear might be working within the same form, but with a different flavor or a different sort of that's why I think that as you said, or I think that the human still has to be valid within it. It can't just be the machines making art, and because I
Yeah.
think we want to hear from other human beings and what their experience of life is like, because it's edifying, and I think it's enriching, and I think it helps us discover within ourselves things that we might not be aware
Right.
of, or different
There's an,
perspectives. Like Burroughs' idea of art is that, it makes you aware of things that you already knew but didn't know you know. So
uh-huh.
I mean, so I think we have lost the sort of spiritual or nurturing sort of what it's like to be human, aspect of art, that has become this mechanical sort of cold thing, or lecturing or something.
There's a lot of conceptual art feels cold to me, in that it can be boiled down to a sentence, or it's agenda oriented, or there's an idea behind it, and it lacks sort of, a larger canvas in a sense. It's not as open ended.
I also
It can be explained, and
also
I
I think it's yeah. Also, I think it's sort of like a very calm reaction to a godless world. Like, you have a godless world, and we're cool with that, man. But there's a certain privilege to that. There's a certain safety because we've got the largest military in the world, and we can say that, like, that life is, that there's a void, and we're cool with the void because we don't have that terror, because we've been raised in comfort, and we haven't been
right,
raised in terror. And I think the sort of no wave Lydia Lunch was like, no, we're fucked up, and I don't care if I fit in this story. I'm breaking this story, and I need to be reckoned with, because it's the same thing of Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. It's that
right.
same story, and that's of like, you can conceptualize this 2 + 2 = 4 perfect universe, and guess what? I'm going to come up and say 2 + 2 is 5, and I'm going to do it so forcefully and just say F you, because man is irrational, and that there's something. And even with Jung, like realizing that he was this crazy artist and he's not a scientist, and he had these when he did the Red Book, he realized, he was an artist where Freud was like, you're a scientist, you're a scientist, you're a scientist.
Yeah.
This is all
Yeah.
science. It's all 2 + 2 = 4. And he's like, you're going to be the guy who succeeds me. He's kind of like, I can't do it, man. I'm a freak. He's like,
or that, there's tension between those 2 points,
yeah,
which is interesting.
yeah.
And, if you're just going to go one way or the other, it's going to be probably less interesting.
That's
So,
what I was always intrigued with, the Apollonian Dionysian thing. When I took this Nietzsche class the first year of college, it was about his first book, Birth of Tragedy. And he talks
right.
about the Apollonian sort of being of form and sculpture and rigidity, and that the Dionysian is more. And the whole left-right hemisphere theory, I like that whole dichotomy. I like the fact that there's a push-pull, and I think that's why, even if you have 2 parties, it's better than a one-party state. We don't. A one-party state is like a dictatorship. Right? It's like there's extremes on both sides, and you can take the extreme of the other side and say it represents the whole of the other side. You can take the extreme of that side and say it represents. And then at a certain point, I think the middle of reasonable people have to wake up and kind of go like, what's going on here, and like straighten things out. One person I heard said, we needed Malcolm X for the sort of the normal people to kind of go like, oh, what's going on? Oh no, we picked this guy, Martin Luther King.
I know you don't like politics, but I heard the same thing about the Clintons, that when the Clintons basically amputated the left wing of the Democratic Party, that they no longer had like a bargaining chip, where the Republicans have like, a hard right, even harder right. But back then they had a hard right side, and they could, say like what you said, oh, you don't want to deal with us? Okay, you can talk to those yahoos. And, you need you do need that bargaining chip, but whatever. I don't, I'm no politician. The whole system seems like it could probably be, you know, thrown out and maybe start from scratch with something different. I don't know.
It's just, I think I don't know. It's like, I don't have faith in people. It's like, I just want to get out of here, in one piece. Like I'm not on any side, and I just want to, get the hell out of here. I've wanted to get the hell out of here since I was a teenager. Since reading Being and Nothingness, I was like, in the bookstore, and I was like, what book should I pick? Oh, Being and Nothingness. That looks good. Couldn't read it. Went next door. I said, Saint Genet, I can read this. I'd read about Jean Genet. I'd be like, this guy's a freak, but something's up here.
Yeah.
It's like, this is kind of cool. But so, yeah, it's like, and my friend Keith, he got out early. He set himself on fire, brother.
Oh, wow.
His family was fucked up.
That's pretty dramatic, yeah.
Puts a whammy on you, but I don't think it would have gotten any better. The poor guy.
I don't know. Helena sometimes talks and scares me about like going out like in a blaze of glory. And there was all this like school shootings.
Oh,
she was like, I'm going to go take a gun to a school, and I was like, no, don't do that. She was like, I'm going to make a statement. And I was like, no. They won't read it as a statement. They'll just read it like you're crazy.
Just see you're crazy, yeah. You think you're right. You're right, but no one's going to agree. That's the whole problem. She's not going to force you to go with her. Like you're not going to be Clyde.
No, she's not that cruel or anything.
Right.
I mean, she understands that these are, personal statements. But
she's a registered nurse. She gives and she gives and she gives and she gives.
She's a complicated person. Like I said, she should be your next interview. You should talk to her.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so like, I didn't really know you in New York, but I know you because
but I didn't know you well, and I'm glad we had a chance to talk. Yeah, I mean, I certainly knew you. I knew your band.
And what was going on? You saw my band? What the hell? When was that?
I must have seen your band. I'm so spotty in my recollections.
Me too, yeah.
But I definitely, I knew you, and you were like, you traveled in this. I mean, from my sister being in your movie to like, being in bands with people that I knew. So it's like we were in the same room, but
right.
How that works.
Right. And I was always in my own world. I mean, that's why I needed to come to the city and like, so I could isolate among a lot of other people. But
yeah, the city's good for that. That's true.
Yeah, I spent a year in LA and it was okay, but like driving. I was terrified of
Oh yeah,
driving. Then being on a
driving's terrible.
four lane highway with people passing me on the right side like freaked me out. But
Yeah,
I
it's
can
terrible.
sing at the top of my lungs and yell and scream in my car, and you know, that was fun. I don't get to do that here.
No, you can't
And
do that on the subway. Well, I guess you can, but it's frowned upon.
and apparently I was in a band called Loser with
I saw
Beck.
you in that. I saw that band. I saw it with Anna Haferman. We went to. It was like some
Was
of
I
the one
playing
of those little.
drums?
I don't remember. I just remember it was that guy. It was well, it was Beck, and
Right,
it was before he was like known as Beck,
right.
and it was that guy fronting it, who's the guy who did
Steve
like his
Hamp.
videos.
Yeah. And
And
apparently Steve Hillenberg was SpongeBob creator was the bassist. That's what I'm told.
oh, I don't know. It was like a super group before they were
And
superstars.
then I played the
They
drums
were
for a while.
hilarious.
They were
It was a
hilarious.
hilarious band. I mean, I saw them at like one of those. Remember, like there was like on some bar on Bleecker Street. I mean, Anna and I were like the only people there, and we
Oh,
got
that
really drunk with the video guy because he was going out with Anna
Steve.
at the time. But Beck was very shy. He was not a drinker or
That
anything.
must have been after they kicked me out of the band because
Maybe.
they broke up the band while I was trying to make the Beck the Loser video, and then they reformed the band without me and hired my ex-girlfriend who I
Oh,
first sat on the drums and told her what each hand
oh,
and foot did. So,
I
who's the
guess so.
real
Maybe 'cause
loser?
this was in New York, and I don't
It
know. Were you in the
was,
band
yeah.
in Los
No,
Angeles
I was in the
or?
band in Los Angeles, yeah.
Okay, so that this was like the only time I think they came to New York, but
Yeah.
their songs were great. They were hilarious. I can't remember any of them, but I remember having a great time.
Good. Born of Whiskey was one of their songs. Um, that was fun. I was like a year. I was like,
Yeah,
um,
I think Anna went to Beck's wedding or something like that.
oh yeah,
She was still like going out with that guy. She 'cause that was like right before that loser single came out, like right before he became famous.
yeah, this was
He
true.
wasn't
Yeah,
dead. Yeah.
I heard Loser and I said, this is a hit song. This has got to be on MTV. I want to make the video. He's like, I don't want to make the video. And then Steve was more appropriate because he was more of a fan of Beck's too, and were on the same wavelength. I kind of like
Right.
knew it was a hit, but I never wanted to make a music video. I mean, it's always like
Uh,
I don't know what the hell to do for a music video. I mean, people would ever, yo, you love music, you love video, you should be a great music video. It's like, no, I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking of going another 25 minutes so we have an hour and a half.
oh, let me see. I was going to maybe go with Helena too. She's going
We can
to
wrap it up.
well, let me see if she might have left without me. I'm
Oh,
gonna call
Jesus.
her because she said I didn't have to go with her, but I was gonna go. Let me
So,
see if she's still there. In which case I would probably have to get out like now.
so
But
if I'm not against interviewing
hey, when are you
Helena,
leave? Oh, sorry. Hold on 1 minute.
well,
When are you leaving? Okay, I'm gonna go with you. So I'm gonna wrap up with Carrie. All right, bye. So she's leaving soon. So I guess we'll
okay.
go on.
So
So
I
I'd love
think
to stay in touch with you like this because regardless if we make it public, it's a pleasure to talk to you. So
you too.
I
I
don't know if I'll get
agree.
a chance to see you when I'm in New York because I'll
That's
mostly
fine.
be with my relatives and stuff, but I'm there for like just a few days.
I love Zoom, and I think, and if Helena wants to do this and be on the show,
I'll ask her.
she should write down some questions for me to ask.
Well, I can tell you about her because she's had an interesting, she used to work at Fantagraphics and she was like a big cartoon person for a long time and knows a lot of that world. And she's just a fascinating character, but I don't know if she even wants to do it.
You should interview
I'm
her.
always saying she should do it, not me. You don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to her, not to me.
This was fine, and it's like this is just an excuse to talk with people, you
Yeah, no,
know.
it's a great way to also for me to apologize for that Lisa Carver incident and stuff. I know. I was cruel. I was a bastard. A
I,
cruel
I
bastard.
just I
But
just
I've
was
changed. Now I'm just a bastard. I'm not cruel anymore.
I was just a lonely soul who wanted to have friends and be with cool people, and they were being mean to me.
I know. And I just was like, I'm with the cool people for the
I
first time in
thought,
my life. I'm with
I,
the mean girls. I
I
want
thought
to
that they were made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Tell me, is that not true? Is that not true? What a world.
It's a
What?
sad world.
Where's my mommy? All right. I'm going to go find my mommy.
Oh, good talking to
If
you.
Lisa Carver can't be my mommy and nurture me, I don't know who will. All right, that
Well,
was years
if you put
ago.
this online, I'll tell Lisa that it's here. I'll tell her that she should be ashamed of herself.
No, that's perfectly fine. Fine. It's what I deserve. I get everything I deserve. I'm,
Well,
compared.
you were certainly very weird. You were acting very weird. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but what, is she not weird?
It might have
All those
been
people that she was with.
it might have even been before my hospitalization. I can't.
It could have been because you
I,
were definitely, there was something not right.
She's not a stupid person.
No, she's not
She
stupid.
probably knew.
She probably made the right choice. She probably felt like it was, but I still felt bad about it. That's
That's
all.
fine. No, it went the way it should have. I don't feel bad at all. I got some footage. I got what I needed.
That's true. It was great seeing that footage too.
All
It was
right.
embarrassing to see myself, but it was nice to see, everybody else. So
Cool. All right. So that was fun.
yeah. Good
And
talking to you.
if you want any like links for me to put in the comment
Oh, you
section,
could put my Instagram or whatever.
just
Maybe
put them in
somebody
an
will buy one
email
of my
and I'll
drawings.
put them in an email and cut and paste.
Oh, sure. I'll send it
All
to
right.
you.
All right. Thanks. Take care. Best to everybody.
Okay. Yeah, you too. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Cool.
Arrivederci. Roma.
Arrivederci. Ciao.